Hello, hello, and welcome to Coaching Corner with me, Tracy Forsyth. And today we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk about, this question of am I enough? So, this is really about how to stop questioning, am I enough? So, it's one of the most frequent questions that come up when talking to coaching clients about what they worry about. Am I enough? But what is enough? There are hundreds of motivational posts across social media saying things like, you are enough. You are more than enough. You are 1,000 times enough. But enough what? When we talk about food, we say, is that enough? Have you had enough? And it's about having the right amount to satisfy our hunger or greed. And when we talk about money being enough, we might consider if the pay we get will cover our costs and the things that we want or need to buy. But when we talk about ourselves being enough, what are we actually talking about? And how would you know for certain that I am enough? I think in most cases, it means, do I successfully meet the expectations, needs, and demands in my life that life presents me? And lots of the times, I think those are external expectations of work and job, expectations of partners and relationships, the needs and demands of family and friends, expectations of society to look or act or behave in a certain way. And actually, by the way, I've been told I was too much, but that's a different story. The issue there is that external expectations, needs, and demands are not within your control, and they're changeable. They flux. They may also be unreasonable or unrealistic, and they may be counter to what you want or what serves you well, which means that being enough, if we think about external expectations, turns into a never-ending, energy-sapping exercise. You are never enough. It's an unachievable goal. And you never feel good enough. So, am I enough can also mean, from what I can see, am I doing enough to meet the expectations I have of myself? And, I work with lots of self-critical overachievers who would only really think perfection was enough. And the problem with perfection is that it's very hard to attain or sustain day after day, year after year in every aspect of your life. So this question of am I enough, how to answer it? Well, personally, I don't think hundreds of social media posts just telling you are enough is going to cut it, because you have to believe it rather than relying on somebody else to tell you. And how do you do that? Well, this is how I recommend you start. Ask yourself these questions. So number one, what does enough mean to me? So get clarity on what you're really talking about. Otherwise, it's just like it's an unattainable goal. So clarify what enough means to you. And number two, the question is, what would my life look like if I felt 100% enough? How would I feel? What would the lens through which I look at life be like? Number three, how much is down to my internal expectations or down to external expectations? So separate out those two things and see what you find. Number four, often the hardest question of all, what do I actually want? What do I actually want? Number five, what is possible to achieve given the hours in the day, the time I have, and the energy I have? Number six, how do I want to use my energy wisely? I mean, energy is kind of like a finite resource, isn't it? You use it, you deplete it, you need re-energizing. But how do I want to use that energy wisely? And finally, number 7, how will I know? How will I know if I am enough? So that's your starter for 10. Just make that inquiry. Am I enough? What does it actually mean for me? And I do really recommend you do the work. It's worth it. Ask yourself those questions. As I always say, being fearlessly you takes work, but it's worth it. Okay, see you next week. Let me know what you think.